Welcome back into another episode of George in the Jungle, presented as always by Remington Tavern. Remington Tavern can be found at 8892 Glendale Muffled Road, 45140, where they have daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. They can be found on Instagram at RemyTavCincy. That's REMITAV Cincy with a Y, or follow them on Facebook. And with that, George, I'm under the weather, so I don't know how much talking.
You're playing hurt, man.
I don't know how much, but it's right now. It's more the cough, and if I talk too long, I feel like the cough creeps back in. But we'll see how this goes.
Well, we can shut her down early if need be.
We'll see how you're doing. We'll get a show out of it.
We'll see how you're doing. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I heard you were under the weather a little bit and battling a temperature, a fever, all that fun stuff. And
yep,
hopefully you're through it soon. I had something going on last week, but I never had a fever, which was good.
I feel like everybody has something going on right now.
Yeah, it's been going around. All kinds of crap's been going around. You know, there's been COVID back and colds and
kids go back to school and everybody's got everything all over again.
Yeah, that's true. Those germs do get passed around.
But the Cincinnati Bearcats opened up their 2024 season at historic Nippert Stadium, and they played the Towson Tigers. They were winners 38-20, put up over 650 yards of offense.
Yep.
Defense probably could have been better, but you did have 26 players record a tackle. So what were George Vogel's thoughts as he digested this game?
Good first or bad first? What you want? You want the bad first?
Hit me with the bad first.
Okay, the bad isn't real bad for me, but I felt like you have to try to keep in mind that defensively it is a new defense and it's going to be rough first time out of the box, and not everyone's going to know what everyone else is doing and what they're supposed to do. And so I expected that to be a little jagged, and it was. The thing that probably concerned me the most was just the lack of any pass rush. They did end up with 3 sacks, but consistently, and I wanted to go back and check this, and maybe that stat's out there somewhere. PFF probably has it. I don't know how many times they brought more than 3 rushers in that game. I mean, it seemed like every time I looked up, and it's like that quarterback's got all day, they only brought 3. And I don't know if that's by design of the defense, if that's by design of just not showing everything in week 1 against an opponent you should be able to beat and get a victory and not, throw everything out there in week 1. I would suspect that this week we're going to see a little more pressure and a few more blitzes and things of that nature. But that's what really, really stuck out to me is probably the biggest negative. Although right along with that would have been, some of the special teams play and things that happened there. A 31-yard chip shot that wasn't even close. A muffed punt that led to a turnover. Those things are things that killed this team last year. Killed them, whether it's, missing field goals, putting yourself in a bigger hole, or unable to win that Miami game because you missed a field goal. Just that's disturbing too. I mean, that's probably even a little more of an edge than what I saw out of that pass rush. But that to me were the big negatives. I'm sure there's a few more I might be able to come up with the more I think about it, but those are the ones that stuck out to me.
Yeah, special teams. I think that Mason Fletcher was the only saving grace for the special teams.
Right.
On a day that they struggled in a lot of facets.
Yeah, and that's got to be. They talk about cleaning up things. That's got to be cleaned up. And again, you are running a bunch of new guys out there. on special teams, but it's just we saw how bad it was last year. It can't be that bad this year. If it is, you're going to lose some more games like we saw last year at BYU, games you shouldn't have lost, but special teams cost you. I know they know it. I know they're working on it, but you got to get it done on game day. So those are the two biggest disappointments for me. And like I said, the pass rush, there might be some mitigating factors there that it just seemed like they were pretty content to just bring three guys more often than not on those passing downs. But there was a lot of positive stuff. There were obviously offensively, you can point to a lot of things. I mean, you can start with the quarterback and how he looked. His it seemed like he, in the heat of the moment, does not get rattled, keeps his head on his shoulders, still looking to make plays, doesn't give up when the first read or second read isn't there. It's interesting to hear him talk about the wide open pass to the wide receiver out of Princeton, it was like a 61-yard bomb, and the kid was wide open, and he wasn't really even supposed to be an option on that play. And Sorsby said after the game, I think it was after the game, he said that he was like, even had just a second thought of like, oh my God, I'm not even supposed to throw this ball there. But the guy, what am I going to do? Pass it up. And so, he wasn't even supposed to be looking that way, and saw him wide open. And so, that was impressive the way he played. Obviously, Henderson played well. Had a couple drops early. One was behind him. In fact, the first two incompletions, I looked up, Scoresby was 9 of 11 after that second incompletion. That was pretty much a drop. And the other one was a ball to Henderson. It was just a little behind him. He probably a 50-50 ball that he could have had it, couldn't have it. But other than that, I mean, 7 catches, 101 yards. The one dropped right to him where he got behind the defense, and that was a great play by the quarterback too. That was a great play on both ends. But talk about dropping a long ball in there, and that was good to see, because last year, how many times did we see guys getting open deep and they were overthrown?
Right.
So, the two bombs were great to see. Kiner was efficient. Pryor, when he got his chance, was electric and gives them maybe another dimension that they didn't have last year. The ability to break a long one at any.
That's what Coach said he wanted.
Yeah, and he really showed that. I mean, that what was it, 28-20 when he popped that one
right after half. Yeah,
it was getting to that uneasy time where it's like, is this team going to stall, and are they going to have to hang on by their fingernails? And that kind of broke it wide open. So, and then, I could have started with this guy, Joe Royer, and the difference he made on the field. And just, he's a total freak. He did that hurdle move right in front of me. That was right in front of where I sit. And it was fun to hear him talk about that too.
That he had never done that before.
Yeah, he'd never done that before. Didn't know if he should try it, but saw the guy going low. He knew he was a smaller defender. I thought, what the heck? I'll give this a shot. And it worked. So he was as advertised. I felt like when you look at the guys that they brought in that you hope are difference makers on that offense, they all showed up pretty well in my book. I think they now they were playing Towson, but still they look pretty darn good. And so I expect there to be quite an improvement this year in finishing these drives. And they could have finished a couple more drives. But I just think offensively, they're in much better shape than what we saw a year ago.
I could not agree more in that regard. I don't know. Were you? Do you still have concerns going into this game against Pitt?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean,
Because we did find out today that Dante Corleone has been cleared to play. We'll see how much he plays, as he has not been doing 11-on-11s. He has been practicing, but it's not been in full practice. So I guess we'll hurry up and wait. And
yeah, I had my suspicions even back, a couple weeks ago when it seemed like he was coming along. When I know he was getting close a couple weeks ago, right when they were breaking higher ground and they were talking about the possibilities that he was being cleared more and more, just hadn't been cleared for contact yet, and it just sensed that he was probably going to be on a schedule that would get him back for this game. That remains to be seen. I suspect we will see him some. I don't know how much, but it sounded like Coach was somewhat satisfied with his conditioning and everything, so they wouldn't be afraid to use him some in this Pitt game. So we'll see. But that's a big boost for this defensive line, given what they lost through injury. A lot of new guys there that they're and some of them, when I say new, are getting their playing time for the first time. And those guys held up pretty well. There just wasn't much pass rush, but I think, again, that goes back. You only bring 3 guys, you're not going to get a lot of pass rush. And that's what I felt like that was mainly the reason for that.
I wonder how much you really wanted to show, though, with Pitt coming in next week.
Totally agree. Right. You don't want to show all your blitzes. You don't want to show. And they were playing different than what I saw. Like there wasn't a whole lot of disguising as far as, I saw a bunch of guys up on the line in practice and then dropping off, when the play was about to be run. So maybe you weren't sure which guy was coming and which wasn't out of that linebacker crew. And I didn't really see any of that during the game. It was totally different. And it was very, to me, plain Jane. It's like they lined up and, for the most part, stayed in what they were. And I think they felt like they didn't have to pull out a lot of stops to win this game. And, there's something to be said about easing them along and getting them used to this defense, too, and doing the things they're going to have to do when it's just a base, 3-3-5 without a lot of blitzes and all that going on. So we will see, but I suspect we are going to see a lot more of that. And I think that's what you said is a big reason for it. You're just not going to show everything against Towson that you're going to throw at Pitt this week.
Yeah, I think also when you have so many young guys playing, so many new guys playing, and you're playing a team like Towson, you're not doing much more than a vanilla offense. When you have 26 guys end up with a tackle, you're not doing much more than a vanilla offense.
Right.
So I think that they were just kind of getting there. I think they treated it like a preseason game, truthfully.
Yeah, that's what it felt like, too.
I agree.
Will say this. They got to see a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball, and it's pretty exciting how some of those young players showed up. And, and you can go right down the list of those guys. They played, several true freshmen, and Sanks and Coleman looked like they could play all season. And Sanks started, and they both looked like starters and keepers, him and Coleman. But heck, the rest of them they played. They had quite an extensive group of freshmen, true freshmen who got in the game. And then some of the other newcomers. I mean, I thought Bartlett looked really, really good in this game, and seemed like, and he was used to playing outside, and they had him in the middle, and it seemed like he's adapted that very well. Plays like a leader, sounds like a leader off the field. Seems to be a definite upgrade there as well. He and Minkins had really good games playing their first time in UC uniforms. It was crazy. I mean, I'm consulting my roster on like every play. It seemed like it's like
Me
having to
too.
look at that numerical roster. Is like, okay, who's this guy again? Who's that guy? Who's this coming in? It was crazy. But I mean, they played a lot of guys, and they played what they say like 30 some guys,
On
34 or
defense.
so played who are new to the program as either freshmen or transfers. And I mean, that is a hell of a change, and that
Yeah.
takes a lot of coaching to have all those guys knowing what the heck they're doing. And you think spring ball and fall camp is a lot of time, but it's really not. And college football's changed because everybody's got a lot of new players now thanks to the portal. It's crazy. It's nuts. And I forget who just went off about it the other day. Gosh, one of the coaches just had a lot to say about what's going on now in college football, and it's like how they would like to see. Do you
Dabo.
know who was it?
Dabo.
Yes, yeah. It's about like and talking about like guys. And I think it was him that said one of those coaches said that they would like to see the NFL have to deal with this. They have free agency, but every guy on your roster is a free agent every year, basically, in college
Yeah.
football now. And so, what do you do? Like, what do you do? There is no time for rest. You're constantly having to woo someone.
Dabo has gone the opposite direction of the portal, though, and
Yes, he has.
He's not started.
But you look at it, now Saban was probably getting ready to retire anyway, but this certainly was not something that he would look at and say, oh, that's going on. I would rather stay and coach a couple more years and deal with this. It's run a couple basketball coaches out, or so it seems, having to deal with this stuff. So all these teams are having to deal with a lot of change, but the change this team's going through is off the charts. And so no one wants to hear it may take a couple games to get them up to speed because they don't have a couple games. They got to be ready this Saturday against Pitt. But you're right. I think that's a lot of why that game felt like a preseason game, because of all the new players and all the different players who played. It wasn't just, the same 22 running out there all the time. There was all kinds of changes going on. And, that's good to see that they can trust them, throw them out there, see them in game situation, and kind of know what they have. And, they got the win. It was only Towson, but look, 658 yards offense. I think we'd take that against anyone.
I agree. I'll be interested to see how many players rotate in defensively this week as they buckle down and are playing a team that put up 55 last week in Pitt.
Yeah.
They coach said in his presser today that they look completely different on tape than they did a year ago. So you don't have the luxury of, oh, we played them last year, we're good.
Right.
They're running an air raid now, and it's very different. So we'll see how that looks against the 3-3-5, especially when we have some exotic looks out of the 3-3-5 instead of just vanilla all game.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm anxious to see that and see how different it will look this week, and if there are, a lot more blitzing and a lot more, I guess, oomph in the pass rush. But yeah, Pitt's got that new quarterback who had himself a pretty darn good game against Kent. They had a running back go for 145 yards who's new to the team, so it's a new ball game in Pittsburgh too, and it needed to be. I mean, they struggled last year too.
They did. I mean, they had a tight end playing quarterback, so
yeah, and he ran like an offensive lineman, but yeah. Oh, and he took off running. I couldn't believe it. But hey, I remember he had one pretty good pickup on the ground, if I remember right. But yeah, that dude was like running in mud. This kid, I don't think, is that way that they have back there now.
In any case, the NFL season kicks off on Thursday as the Ravens travel to Kansas City and take on Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and the Chiefs. But the Bengals play the Patriots at home in their full orange uniforms. We'll see how those look. Cincinnati favored by 8 in this one. The big question mark is, what's Jamar Chase going to do?
I didn't think it was going to get to this point, but it has. It seems like he's pretty serious about wanting this new deal. And he, to me, I'm sitting here right now, and if they don't have something worked out before Sunday, I'm not sure he plays. I don't think he does. I think he's going to see this thing through now. I think, the fact that he started to come back and then next day was, shows up after practice started in street clothes and hasn't been back on the practice field since, tells me he's not going to play till he has a new deal, that he is committed to doing this now. And I'm not so sure that by the end of this week, they won't have a new deal. I mean, the market's kind of set. You know what these top receivers make per season now. It's, a shade over 30 million, let's say, a year or thereabouts. And it's funny because I've read a lot of different takes on this and a lot of different people around the country and around the league. And all of them end up coming back to the same thing. And it's like, the Bengals may as well just do it now because they're going to end up probably saving money because the market's going to be reset here in another year.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out because I don't think he's going to hit the field till he has the deal. I really don't. I think he's I could be a terrible poker player, but I don't think he's bluffing.
I put a little stock in the fact that I think it was yesterday he showed up to practice on time and was out there for stretches and that. So it sounds like things were at least progressing to where he was in a good enough mood to be out there.
And he may have seen maybe they are negotiating in good faith and I don't know. I don't know if he would settle for any kind of I don't know what he wants. I don't know if it's got to be a 4-year extension, if he would settle for 3. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. But it's come to that point. To me, it's just about to the breaking point now. And I will be surprised if he plays without some kind of new deal in place before Sunday.
I know that I made the joke last week that I'm still curious if they just reveal right before Thursday Night Football that he has signed a deal, much like Joe Burrow did.
Yeah.
And I know that Kansas City was not real happy about that. So we'll see. I don't feel good about it, though, at this point. And the crazy thing to me is if he sits out, are you finding him? If you're finding him, is he even going to sign with you?
Right.
And if he sits out, I think it's much the same way that Le'Veon Bell went, where it just doesn't count as a year on your contract.
Right. I guess that can happen. It could get ugly. I don't think it will, but it could. I really think they're going to, if they have the means, are going to take care of it. But it's a shame it hasn't been taken care of by now. It should have just probably not reached this point.
Yeah, I just don't want to see the Bengals.
I get the Bengals' view on this too. I mean, he's got, another year and the option year, and everyone usually plays through that last year before things come to a head. So he's a year ahead of schedule on pulling this kind of stuff. But he's got a lot of special numbers behind him, and he's not your run-of-the-mill wide receiver. I mean, he's not even, he's not even T. Higgins. He's a little more than that, or has been. So it's a tough spot for the Bengals, but they've got this window, and this year could be really special. And I don't think they want that mucking it up. So I think I think we're going to see some movement.
Yeah, I don't want to see them cut off their nose to spite their face, just because they've never done this before.
You know what I wonder though is what the rest of the I wonder what the rest of the league and the ownership thinks of this and what they're, because he's not going to be the only one to pull this. If he has, every rookie that has a couple of good years is going to start pulling this now if they give in. So I don't know how you look at that, because the NFL worked really hard on getting this system they have. And it's a system everyone understands, everyone thinks it works. The veterans think it works, and it kind of guarantees the veterans get the money instead of blowing all this money on unproven commodities now. You kind of have to prove yourself before you get the big second contract payday. Back in the old days, you draft a kid early in the first round, they could hold out for whatever they wanted. And now it's a little more structured, and it's worked very well for the NFL. So I just wonder, not that they would have a whole lot of influence, but they may. I just wonder what the other owners think of this, and if the Bengals do this. It's kind of a unique situation, just that Chase has been so good his first few years. You don't often see these seasons out of the box like he's had. So I don't know. There's definitely several different ways to look at this. And I would just be interested to know what some of these other owners, I mean, if I'm another owner, I'm saying don't blink, to hell with it, because it's not hurting me, and you're keeping one of the best players out of the league, and you're upholding what is tradition with these contracts.
And that being said, I think that the rest of the league is looking at this and thinking that there couldn't be a better owner in place right now in this situation.
Right. It's a perfect storm for them. But I think the Bengals have to do what's good for the Bengals and not worry about that stuff. And when you've got this opportunity, because I really, is T. Higgins going to be here next year? Is this offense going to be as capable next year as it is this year? Maybe, but you don't know for sure. This year, you got Higgins on the other side of Chase, and that's tough for teams to deal with.
I agree. So they do have the Patriots coming up this week. We'll see if Chase lines up in uniform to start the season. But how do you feel going into this game? What are you looking for?
Oh, I feel pretty good about it. Now, all that being said, I felt pretty good about the openers the past couple of years, to be honest. Last year, I was almost shocked at how poorly they came out of the gates. I think it was in Cleveland, right? But Joe Burrow's got his first full camp behind him, healthy, all that good stuff. Everyone seems pretty well primed and ready to go. I don't know if Mims is going to be able to play, but they're still set at the offensive line. The defense has come together nicely, and it'll be interesting to see Dax Hill and how he plays out there as a starting cornerback. But they obviously have a lot of faith in him, and they seem to feel okay about the guy behind him, DJ Turner. I know you're not. But they seem to feel good about that situation. That's probably the biggest test that we'll see on that defensive side of it, is how those corners hold up now. But I feel pretty darn good about where they are coming into the season, where they are health-wise. Everything outside of that Chase situation looks to be like they have everything in place they need and want. And now they got to go out and do it. They can't go out and start 0-2 again and put themselves behind the 8 ball like they've been doing. But this is a perfect opportunity. The Patriots, they've had a lot of changes, and name 6 of their starting players for me. They're a mishmash of everything with a new coach and everything else going on. So it's a perfect season opener for the Bengals. It's at home. It's a team with a bunch of unknowns, new coaching, all that stuff. I think it sets up very well for them. So I feel really good about it. And we'll learn a lot more in week 2 out in Kansas City. But I'm perfectly content with them opening the season at home against the Patriots.
In my defense, I am okay with DJ Turner being your 4th cornerback. I am
Okay.
not okay. I am not okay with him being a starter.
Right. Okay. Okay. Not capping on you. I just knew that you weren't too high on that guy at the end of last year.
Yeah, I'm not super fond of him. I'll say that.
But he was a rookie.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's a little bit of improvement there, and he's learned a little bit, because there is outside of quarterback, but God, playing cornerback, my goodness, I would rather be a quarterback than a corner any day of the week. How in the world are you supposed to keep up with these guys and then come up and give run support when you're for a football player, you're a skinny, fast dude, and now you're supposed to go tackle Derrick Henry? Give me a break.
Yeah, that's a big ask.
Yeah, that is a huge ask. That position just gets abused. I've always, from the time I first knew anything about football, I've been very, what's the word I'm looking for? Fond, respectful. I just really believe that's such a hard position to play.
Now, did you go to the Labor Day fireworks?
No, I was out of town.
Oh, I was gonna say they did a big drone show over the stadium with like Houday and.
Oh wow, that's cool. Those drone shows are awesome. Those are awesome. And hey, I went by. I was thinking of you today when I was driving. It was probably early afternoon, late morning, and there were some orange lights starting to glow off and on at Paycor Stadium. And I thought, if Aaron saw that, he'd say there's a contract done for Jamar Chase.
No, they've put that on social media. Just with the orange, everyone wearing orange. They've had the orange lights on.
So it's going to do that all week.
Yeah.
So if they flash what, green, maybe will be the contract.
I don't know.
I'll try to keep an eye on it for you.
All right. That's all I really have on. I guess we can discuss. They did release the 53-man, the depth chart, essentially. Did you catch any surprises on the depth chart?
Nothing major, no. Okay. Did you?
No, I don't think I did. I think it was pretty much, and I guess Zach Moss and Chase Brown, we'll see how they end up splitting those carries.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, because I don't know that you can use Chase Brown every down or whatever, but I don't know. I feel pretty good about where they are with those two. Too bad Chase got hurt some last year and wasn't able to play like they thought he was going to, because I think he would have been some help. And so we'll see how much he can help this year. But I feel pretty good about their running back situation.
Yeah, I think that was the only thing that I'm looking at and just wondering how you're really going to divvy that up.
Yeah, and I'm sure they have a pretty darn good idea which plays and everything they want them in for, and I'm glad they have those options now. They earns a little bit before in the past, but they never really had the guy like Chase Brown who could take a little swing pass or something and turn it into a 40, 50-yard gain. The last one, they've had guys that were capable of that, but not quite the lightning type guys. This guy strikes me with a little more electricity than what they've had in the past.
Yoshi did earn the slot spot. No surprise there.
No, and good for him. And that looks like one hell of a pickup they got in the draft last year, drafting a wide receiver out of Princeton who seems to, quite honestly, possess quite the toolbox. He seems to have all the tools that he needs to succeed at this level, and seem to he seemed good last year in preseason, right? But it just seemed like he kept progressing and earned more and more of their trust. And obviously enough to the point that this year he is a starter. So that's good on him, good on the Bengals for doing their homework and getting the right scouting done to bring in a guy that in his second year you can plug in and make up for a loss they had in the slot.
Tight end Drew Samples listed as your starter. I don't believe that to be the case. I think
that one I don't believe to be the case either. And I'm not sure what's going on there, but I don't know. May see a lot of two tight ends for a while, especially if Chase isn't around. I don't know.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Other than that, the only other one that I saw, obviously punter is a situation because you got an injury there.
Right.
So this is not who we expected in Ryan Recco.
Nope.
And then Chase Brown and Travion Williams listed as your kickoff return specialists.
Yep. And
not Charlie Jones.
No. And
Charlie Jones is the punt return specialist, but
yep. And what's weird, I don't know. So here's what I don't know about this new kickoff thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you using a different type of player now in that situation than you did when it was the regular old-fashioned kickoff? You know what I'm saying? Because a punt return guy, you're more worried about quickness than maybe straight line speed and things like that. And the old kick returners, you went for a lot of straight line speed. And so I don't know if it's more, I don't know. I don't know how they've had to adjust to that. We'll find out real soon. And I don't know. I don't know who's going to be good at returning kicks in this thing. Like, it seems, I don't know. It's just so different. I like watching it, but it's just so different. And I hope they get the desired effect out of it. And there's not a lot of injuries and that it's still an exciting play because, when a guy broke a kick, that was big time excitement, especially when the kicker's trying to run him down. So I always got, no pun intended, I always got a kick out of that. But we'll see if this new rule, how that plays out and everything. When I saw it in the preseason games, it seemed all right to me. It seemed like a pretty cool play.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it yet. I don't think I've seen enough of it yet.
Yeah, you're going to have to see more. I know.
Yeah.
I may hate it by the end of the month.
I think I still hate the fact that you've taken any type of chess playing out of the game, that you have to announce an onside kick.
Right.
And you can only do so in the fourth quarter.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally hear you. I mean, because there's been plays when it comes to like messing with other teams on things like that. So a long time ago in a high school game, right? There was one end of the field where you would kick extra points and it would sail into the woods, and there would be a bunch of kids back there in the woods that would take the ball and be gone. So this coach is like, do you mind if we kick at the other end? Because we don't want to lose our damn football. We don't. And so they line up, and then they faked it and went for two. So they weren't going to kick it anyway, but they.
Oh, no, that's terrible. That's terrible.
They line up for the extra point, and then boom, go for two and get the two. That is terrible, but it's funny. And that's that part of game. Like, I'm with you that I don't think you should have to announce to the world we're doing an onside kick.
Right.
Because sometimes that kick started a team that was lagging and got a score, and they're down like 2 or 3 scores, and they just say, to hell with it, we're doing it, and they get it, score again. All of a sudden you got a ball game, and now that aspect's pretty much going to be gone.
I agree. So we'll see how that goes. They did also scrap my favorite new rule. So they are going to keep the chain gang instead of having a chip this season measure. So we're still going to let people that are very old wearing glasses.
Hey.
And these guys are not where the ball is landing often. And
I can tell you right now, you would not want me running one of those chain gangs or leave it up to me to I would be terrible at any of that. Because I can't see a golf ball from here to there. So I would be just awful. I know a football's a lot bigger, but I will say, though, Aaron, I do believe there's a lot of times I've seen them do spots. And I thought, this is crazy. The ball was up here or it was back there, whatever. They're pretty good at getting that close. They go back to replay a lot. Now, sometimes they do completely ball. But yes, with that technology there, when you see what they do at the U.S. Open and all the
right.
tennis tournaments now and all that, it's like, come on, with the dollars on the line in the NFL, there's got to be a way to do this and get it damn near exact instead of guesswork.
I agree. It's 2024, for heaven's sake.
Right. I mean, if I can go to Top Golf and hit a ball and it tells me how far it went,
right,
you ought to be able to do that in the NFL.
Wanted to switch topics here, and last week we saw Sam Moll walk off the mound as manager David Bell was on his way to relieve him of his evening. We saw just yesterday, maybe 2 days ago, Ellie De La Cruz going for a pop-up, and he just kind of stops, and John India gets hit with an error, even though
India was the most surprised guy at Great American Ballpark that he was supposed to catch that ball.
Yeah. How the team just looks like they are done. I've stopped watching. I'm catching highlights and I'm reading, but I've stopped watching because it seems to me that this team has called the season a wrap.
Yeah, and it is a wrap. I think they're like 9 back in the wild card now. What, 7 games under 500, something like that. 22 games to go. They're cooked, and we said that last week, the week before. They're cooked. And don't you think? Well, I know you think, but I'm to the point. They need a kickstart. They got to do some house cleaning this offseason. I think it's time. They run the course with this, and they tried and they tried and they tried. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, and I do think it's, you have to go in another direction now. This clearly hasn't worked. Bad hand again this year with injuries, but how many times can we say that? It's every year. So something's got to change, right? Because I would just about say I don't even care what they do in the offseason. With the same bunch, they're probably going to be in the same boat about this time next year, because I just don't see any kind of spark with this team at all. When it just overall, there's nothing that makes me feel like they ever really play above their head right now. And I think that's gotten worse. I couldn't always say that about this staff, but I feel like the past couple of years, it's just worn on me. And it's probably, if I'm running the team, I'm looking. I'm coming up with something. And there's got to be some people out there that you have in mind. And if you don't, you're not doing your job, that you think would make a damn good manager for this team with there's still a lot of youth here. I think they've got to do something, and that's what you got to do.
Well, I think they've put all of their eggs in the youth basket and have completely bet on themselves, thinking that all of the picks are going to work out. And that's not going to be the case. That's crazy talk.
It is.
So you have to start bringing in a viable right fielder, or the platoon stuff. Sure, you need a guy who can spell.
Right.
You need a second guy. Yes, but you should still also have probably 3 everyday starters in your outfield that can hit the ball well.
Yeah. I don't think that's asking too much. I really don't. And it's time I mean, I say clean out the coaching staff, get at least one, maybe two solid hitting outfielders, another hammer for the mound, if not two. And I know I'm spending a lot of money here, but you hopefully this Hunter Green thing's fine. And the elbow, I know he banged it on a cabinet or something. I don't know what that was all about, but apparently it doesn't seem like it's anything structural. Like everyone was freaking out about Tommy John, justifiably so, because he's been through that before. And anytime a pitcher has an elbow issue, but then when you find out, oh, he banged it on something, then it's like, okay, it's not that kind of injury. But I don't know how much longer you wait on Nick Lodolo. I think he can be a hammer when he's healthy, but my God. But between Green, the other youngsters they have, Abbott, Ashcraft, if he gets his head back on his shoulders right, Rhett Lauder's getting some time now. And actually looked pretty good. He looked, he walked too many people, but I mean, it's his first major league start. And, he may have a little bit of a rough go of it, but he looks the part. That little comparison they did with him and Verlander was insane with their motion and leg kick. And, oh, my God, that side-by-side was totally insane how he has copied that and has it down pat. Looks just like Verlander throwing the ball. So there's stuff to work with. But you got to have the right people to work with them. And I just feel like they need a new voice at the top now. I just do. I think they do. David tried, God bless his heart, love him to death. But, there's only so many jobs as manager in Major League Baseball. Everyone can't be one. Everyone can't be successful at it. You got to find the guys that are. And that's not easy to do. But I think we've probably gone down this road probably further than they should have. And they have found out where they are and what they have.
Yeah, when you have, tens of people showing up to games, it's not a good look.
No, it's not. Yeah, September hits, school's back in. Those weeknight games are dreadful.
Yeah,
I'll find out firsthand tomorrow night. I'm going to head down there and watch for some reason, I guess because I just want to see a game.
Glutton for punishment.
Yep, no doubt.
Well, we'll see how they do. FC Cincinnati played FC Montreal on Saturday and came out victorious. They were at home, right?
Yeah, they were home. And then they're off now till the 14th when they'll be home again against Columbus. Which Columbus?
There was like a 64-yard goal or something, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I want to say it's the second time they've done that this season.
They have done that. Yeah, they did that earlier, which is nuts. That doesn't happen. Does not happen. And this match coming up against Columbus will be big because it looks like, it's going to be tough to catch Miami in first place in the conference. And it looks like it's going to be, a battle for second and third between Columbus and Cincinnati now. So we'll see how that shakes out. But they'll be in the playoffs and they'll have their chance. And hopefully they get back to playing the way they were. And hopefully the other night is a sign they're going to be getting back to that.
Yeah, I'd like to see the teams in Cincinnati winning. And it had been a little while. Well, they won the game before.
Yeah, I never imagined it would be this much.
But other than that, I don't have a ton. High school sports.
You did well tonight playing hurt, man. You did very well. I feel bad for you.
I've hit mute about 34 times, I think.
Yeah, I noticed. That's all right. That's all right. We'll get you out of here in a minute. Yeah, high school football, another big week coming up. There's been some big week. That's the thing about this expanded playoffs. And they're getting into conference play too now. But teams play each other and they'll play other tough teams. And they're not so worried about losing Harbin points and things like that. So that's really cool. There's been some great matchups already this season. Moeller's still number one in the big old Blitz 25 poll, the Blitz top 25. Moeller 2-0. Been impressive so far. The young quarterback looks darn good, like the real. I think he's thrown for 8 touchdowns in 2 games. Lakota West coming off an impressive win over Hamilton. Hamilton looked like and still can be a good team the rest of the season, but Lakota West dispatched to them with ease, and they've got Princeton this week, which is going to be a war. That's probably more than likely the battle to decide the GMC. Winton Woods playing Milford, both teams 2-0 this week, and Winton Woods off to a great start with the win at Springfield, and then they beat Kings this past week, which, has been good forever. Elder plays Springboro this week. That's a couple of 2-0 teams. St. Xavier, 1-1, but still ranked high in the poll. I think they're at 3, 2 or 3, 3, I think. They play Indy Cathedral, the alma mater of one Ted Karras. So Cathedral has been it's a smaller school, but they've traditionally been tough as nails. Northern Kentucky, what a battle this week.
That's where Brent went as well. Brent,
is that right?
Yeah. Brent is an alumni of Cathedral as well.
Well, they got a lot to be proud of over there. That program's been tough for a long time. Northern Kentucky, a couple 2-0 schools and 2 schools that are off to great starts, Cooper and Ryle. Ryle's got the win over Covcath. Covcath lost to Highlands last week too. Cooper has looked very, very good out of the gate, and everyone expected them to have a big year. So the Jags and the Raiders playing this week. That's a big battle out there in Boone County. Highlands playing Campbell County, a big Campbell County battle. I think the Camels are 1-1. Highlands 2-0 now, off to a really good start. So a lot of good football this week, just like there has been the first 2 weeks. There's good games everywhere, and the temperatures should actually be tolerable this week. Last Friday night was brutal. In fact, a lot of games, they delayed the kickoff till 8 o'clock to just try to let it cool down some, because as you saw all week, there were teams trying to practice around the heat and deal with that, because last week was rough. It was rough. So, yeah, a lot of big games coming up again this Friday. And so, tell you what, never a dull moment in these parts with, NFL football, Major League Baseball, pro soccer. You got UC football, God knows how many Division I basketball teams, high school football, basketball. We're lucky to live in this area, Aaron. I know you don't feel it right now, but we're lucky to live in this area.
There's plenty to go and catch a game here over the course of the next several months, and a good game at that. So I'm with you.
I hope I catch one tomorrow night.
Well, I'd be happy with a win.
The Reds have won, 2 in a row? Going to be tough to make it 3.
We'll see what the cards hold.
I didn't even look to see who they're running out there tomorrow night. That's always a crapshoot, too. It seems like a bullpen game every other night anymore.
It looks like it's going to be
let's see, they played Saturday.
Nick Martinez.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Oh my gosh, did you see him Saturday night in that interview on FS1? College football was on Big Fox, so they put the Major League game on FS1, and so they talked to him in the dugout, and he was really on the ball and really good. And then the announcer said something to him like, "Hey, you seem to handle this pretty well. If you thought about doing anything post-career, in broadcasting or doing games." He's like, "Yeah, I've thought about that." He's got a future ahead of him. He really does. He was really good. Very personable, very informative, and interesting. It was good to see.
With Joey retiring, I'm curious to see if he goes down that road or goes into managing.
Yeah, I wonder what is going to happen there. So here's what happens. They'll put Larkin in the manager's role next year, and then that opens up a spot in the TV. So maybe Joey moves into there. Martinez will still be pitching, so he can wait a couple of years. What do you think? Does that seem like a no-brainer?
I think I'd be okay with Joey down as a hitting coach.
How about that? That would be interesting too.
I'd be very
Maybe
okay
Lark
with
would
that.
bring him in for that.
Just saying.
And then maybe Lark would cut Martinez so he can go up in the booth.
All right. That's going to wrap it up. Another great show with you, George.
Good
Thanks
job,
to
Aaron. Proud of
Thanks.
you. You hung in there, brother.
Thanks to Remington Tavern for sponsoring us as always. They can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. You can find them on Instagram at RemyTavCincy or follow them on Facebook. But with that, we will see you back here Tuesday at 9 to discuss your Queen City sports.
Get well soon, Aaron.